All right, so welcome everyone. We're the Bloomfield Public Library, and we're so excited to have Coryse Villarouel here, human rights consultant, to educate us and talk about human rights, a little bit of the history, and what's going on in modern society. So, Coryse, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Coryse Villarouel, and like Rachel said, I'm an arts enthusiast. I've done ballet most of my life. I'm a choreographer and an actor as well. But I've seen so many things throughout my life happen, and that prompted me, so many inequalities, and that prompted me to study the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and get certified and become a consultant. So I became a consultant approximately 3 years ago. And I've made it my mission to go around speaking at libraries and just incorporating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights into most of what I do. So Rachel said today is National Human Rights Day. It was the day that it was founded and put into place, December 10th. And this happened in 1948, 40, actually, I think it's 1945. So it'll be 100 years. Um, and it happened right after World War II, due to all of the atrocities that happened during World War II. A lot of nations and countries came together and, they looked at what happened and they said, we cannot go on like this. And, in a world, we cannot go on with these things happening. And it was led by a woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, and she met with other states and heads of nation, and they came together and they decided to write the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It includes 30 articles in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and we're going to go through a lot of them. If you want to know each article from 1 to 30, I can certainly give you a website that also has videos, very compelling, touching videos that accompany every single one of the articles. But today, my focus is just human rights in the United States today and what the modern violations that we can see happening. So let's get right into it. It was adopted in 1948, 30 universal rights, and rights applied domestically, not just internationally. Rights violations happen everywhere. Issues include policing, immigration, trafficking, freedom of expression, and the Universal Declaration provides a universal lens. So, it's just trying to really provide that lens for a lot of people and let them know that they do have rights and they are protected. A couple of years ago, every year actually, the UN hosts a human rights um, conference that takes place typically in July. It's a 2-day conference, and you go and you get to listen to different breakout sessions, and you get to hear from a lot of people who have personally experienced their rights being stripped away. I think one of the compelling stories I heard was a young man from, I believe, India, and a United States person walked up to him in India and said, you know, you look like you can run business, and I'd like you to come back to the US and run my business for me. He has a wife, 2 kids, and he thought to himself, you know what? I need to really provide for my family. Let's take the chance. Let's move. So he moved to the US um, with, this guy, and the guy put him up in a 1-bedroom apartment with his wife and 2 kids. And it wasn't a factory like he thought he was going to be running. It was a pizza place, and he wasn't even running it. He was just a worker at the pizza place. The guy had him working crazy, ridiculous hours and working and working and working and not paying him at all. Kept saying, I brought you here. You're staying. I gave you a place to live, you and your family. That's your payment. He kept telling the guy. And then he threatened the guy with, you can't, who are you going to go complain to? Because I can get you kicked out of this country. So the guy felt he had, no ground to stand on. And it kept going on. It went on for several years. And finally, one of the employees at the pizzeria overheard him asking for his money one more time. And that person pulled him aside and said, "No, you have rights. You have rights. And I'm going to put you in touch with someone who can help you secure your rights." And they did just that. And this guy has been speaking at the UN and making it his life's mission to advocate for people and their rights. Very touching and compelling story. And the UN looks at all these stories and all these violations, and they try to jump in wherever they can, especially when it comes to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You guys are going to forgive me. I'm getting over a little cold, so if I sound a little nasally, it's for that reason. So let's go into freedom of expression under pressure. And so we've seen journalists fired or suspended for political commentary. We've seen public employees disciplined for expressing views. We've seen books bans limiting youth access to information, retaliation against whistleblowers. Now, I know that all of you can relate or jog your memory, and just recently, a lot of these things have occurred right here in the US. We've seen it happen. A lot of schools are banning books, not because they really want to, but it was handed down to them that they cannot have certain books in school. Um, public employees are being disciplined for expressing their views and being let go or suspended. I have to say, I worked in the private sector, and I had a boss just like that who tried to shut me up because I spoke up against inequalities and things that I saw that were completely wrong. Um, he wanted me to fire one of my employees because she was pregnant and she couldn't do the full job. And I said, that's not right. We can't fire her because she's pregnant. And so after a while of me standing up and pushing back against him, he called me in the office one day and he handed me a paper with 5 different write-ups and said, "This is your first, second, third, and final warning," and that I needed to sign all of it. I knew it was a means to try and shut me up, and I did not sign it because once again, I know my rights, and I fought him every way down to the end, and I won. But a lot of these freedom of expression under pressure relates to Article 19 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Let's take a look at the Article 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinion without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media regardless of frontier. Okay, that is a full breakdown of the universal of Article 19. Um, Article 19 in the book, What is Human Rights? And everyone, if you would like a copy of this book, you can just go to youthforhumanrights.org. That's where you can also see all the videos that go along to every article in the Universal Declaration. They're very compelling videos. And in the book, it says pretty much the same thing. We all have the right to make up our own minds, to think what we like, to say what we like, and to share our ideas with other people. Okay, that is just a very narrow version, and this is just the broad version of it that I have here on my screen.
Coryse, can you say that again? The Youth of Human Rights? Is
Yeah,
that the
it's
name of
called
it?
the youthforhumanrights.org. I don't know if you can see it at the bottom.
Okay, I will email people with the resources at the end.
Okay. Yeah, and all the videos in the youthforhumanrights.org are, of course, centered primarily to youth. So it's a very good learning tool and learning vessel for them. Now, we've seen violence at sea and maritime rights concerns. This is happening now, like right now. Attacks in international waters, boats being blown out of the water, um, immigrant and civilian vessels documented. This is globally documented. Dangerous maritime enforcement actions and violations of Articles 3 and 5. Now, the UN is currently looking into a lot of these violations and are about to, my understanding, there is talks of bringing up people on some of these violations. But it is a violation to just, attack international waters without knowing fully what these people are in the international water for. That's Article 3 and 5, and let's take a look at Article 3 and 5. Oh, sorry, I don't think I put it up there, but I'll read Article 3 and 5 to you. Article 3 is the right to life. We all have the right to life and to live in freedom and safety. And Article 5, no torture. Nobody has the right to hurt us or to torture us. Now, I'm going to go into something that to me is very touching, and I have two kids of my own. I have a teenage son and a little one. And I'm constantly fearful because now my teenage son has a phone, of course, and now he has the internet, and human trafficking and child exploitation is by far becoming too much of a norm, I think, in the US. We see it every day. Things are happening to children, and children are going like just under the radar. These things are going way under the radar for way too long. Um, one that comes to mind is the boy in Waterbury who, was kept at home and he burned down the house or tried to burn down the room just to finally get some help. He was held in that room for years, years. He just was lost in the system. The other day, I read an article about, I believe five teenage girls went to their friend's house for a sleepover. And while at the sleepover, they decided to go to another friend's house. While at that other friend's house, they were drugged and they were abducted, and then they were taken to for other men to have their way with these girls. Very sad state of affair. You think your kids are safe, you're sending them to a sleepover, and things like this happen. It's estimated that 100,000 minors are trafficked annually in the US. Children abducted, groomed, or coerced, high-risk groups, foster youth, runaways, and migrant children.
Coryse,
Um,
in case people don't know, would you mind defining trafficking for us?
sure, human trafficking is being sold into it could be sex slavery or just any type of slavery. You're being sold. People are just abducting you and selling you to other people. Um, and this is happening more and more. It's happening with migrant children, but it's happening with just regular children here in the US a lot. And we've seen things like children come across someone on Facebook or on social media, and sexting gets involved, and they tell them things like, if you don't show me more pictures, I'm going to show this to the public. If you don't keep giving me what I want, I'm going to give this to the public. And we've seen children actually commit suicide over these um these things that are happening. So human trafficking, child exploitation, it's a big thing, and we need to be aware, very, very aware of what's going on. Um, I've been teaching my son since I became a consultant for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I've been teaching him all of these rights as well, and just making sure he's aware of safety online. And it's not just someone asking you to show them yourself, but it could also be that if you received a picture of an inappropriate picture of someone and you forwarded that to someone else, that's a violation. So you have to be very careful. If you received an inappropriate picture, you go and you find a police officer or an adult, report it. Do not forward it to other people because that's a violation of human rights as well. Articles 4, which talks about Article 4 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, no slavery. No one has the right to make us a slave, and we cannot make anyone our slave. That's Article 4 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 5, we spoke about, no torture. Nobody has the right to hurt us or to torture us. Article 13, freedom to move. We all have the right to go where we want in our own country and to travel as we wish. Article 25 in the Universal Declaration, food and shelter for all. We all have the right to a good life, mothers and children, people who are old, unemployed, or disabled, and all people have the right to be cared for. That also means that let me go back one. There's Article 4, freedom from slavery, freedom from torture and inhumane treatment is Article 5. Article 13, freedom of movement. And Article 25, right to an adequate standard of living. This is everyone's human rights. These are your basic human rights, not just domestically, internationally as well. I'm sorry, my seems to be jumping a little. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. It kind of jumped around there on me. Hold on.
No problem. Take your time.
There we go. Okay. So this is the article that I spoke about. The warrant states that 3 14-year-old girls were supposed to be having a sleepover at one of their homes in Bristol. This is Bristol, Connecticut, everyone, right here in our state. Okay. But what happened next was one of the victims called a joyride gone bad. It ended with one of their aunts finding them 3 days later, according to authorities. Warrants show that on Thursday, May 1st, 3 minors left for a sleepover at a house in Bristol to hang out with friends. They were then brought to someone's home in Hartford, where police say they were sexually assaulted by him and 4 other men. The girls then claimed the men dropped them off at Hiller Street. One of the girls said they never came back for them and they ended up leaving. This happened right here in our state, Bristol and the Hartford area.
Coryse, could you just click on from current slide up in the left corner?
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I think when people hear a term like trafficking, if they've heard it in a school or in a class, it sounds like something that can't happen here, you know?
Yeah.
And people don't realize that it's right under our nose sometimes.
Right under our noses. When you do for yourself, go to the youthforhumanrights.org and watch the videos. The video on no slavery, in it, the little girl turned to her teacher and she said to her teacher, does this still happen now? And the teacher just looked dumbfounded. She didn't even know how to answer that because the truth of the matter is it does still happen now. Article 4, 5, 13, and 25, we just talked about. Police violence and excessive force. Over 1,100 people killed by police annually. This is mapped. This is statistical information. Disproportionate impact on Black and Indigenous people. Article 3, 5, and 7 talks about that. And we went over 3, the right to life. Article 5, no torture. And Article 7, we're all equal before the law. The law is the same for everyone, and it must treat us all fairly. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement to such discrimination. Arbitrary detention and immigration abuse. I think we've seen a lot of this in the news with the detention of the migrants in these detention centers. These Some of these children were being held without legal counsel, and some of these children were being abused. U.S. citizens wrongfully detained by immigration authorities. Um, I can speak from experience. My sister travels a lot. She travels for work, and she just came back from the Caribbean and was detained by ICE. My sister's an upstanding member of society. She's a surgeon, so being detained by ICE was just a shock to her. But these things are happening over and over again. Articles 3, 9, and 10 talks about this. We went over Article 3 already. Article 9, no unfair detainment. Nobody has the right to put us in prison without good reason and keep us there or to send us away from our country. Article 3, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Article 9, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. Article 10, everyone is entitled to full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal in the determination of his rights and obligations of any criminal charge against him. Suppression of protest and assembly. We've seen this, crackdowns on peaceful protests, journalists arrested or intimidation, restrictions on civil space. Articles 19, 20, and 21 talks about this. Articles 19 is freedom of expression. We all have the right to make up our own minds, to think what we like. We talked about Article 19. Article 20, the right to public assembly. We all have the right to meet our friends and to work together in peace, to defend our rights. No one can make us join a group if we don't want to. And Article 21, the right to democracy. We all have the right to take part in the government of our country. Every grown-up should be allowed to choose their own leader. So a summary of modern violations. We've seen violations of Article 3. We've seen violations of Article 4, Article 5, Article 9, 10, and 19 through 21, freedom of speech and protest suppression. And I think we've seen a lot of these violations within the last couple of years. That's a lot of violations of our human rights. And a lot of people think, well, what can we do about this? There's a lot that we can do about this. Again, I started attending and it's free to attend the Human Rights Conference in New York City at the UN. It's a 2-day conference. It usually happens in July. If you go to the UN's website, you can definitely go on there and register to attend the next one. But it's a 2-day conference. You don't have to attend both days. But it's nice to be able to hear and see a lot of children. There are actually a lot of children that are there that speak on violations and things that have happened to them and what they've done to speak up on it. Now, I'm going to open it up if anyone wants to talk or discuss anything. Which issues were new to you?
You can feel free to use the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. You don't have to show yourself on camera. You can just unmute and speak up if you learned about anything new today.
How does the Universal Declaration of Human Rights help clarify modern problems? And what responsibilities do individuals and communities share? What we can do, we can educate communities, report abuses safely, support civil rights groups, advocate for reform, protect free expression, and two of my favorite is join nonprofits. There are two nonprofits that I'm on the board of, Friendly Hands Food Bank, and what that does is I help address the needs of the basic human right. Everyone has the right to for food, to somewhere to live, to clothing. So joining the food bank helps me, just address that issue. Okay. And also join cultural causes and cultural nonprofits. There's a nonprofit that I'm also on the board of called Culture for a Cause. And Culture for a Cause um, it's bringing the community through arts and culture. Okay. So we building community through arts and through music and the arts, sorry, building community through music and the arts. And what we do there is we hold different events and we showcase different artists and different musical ventures, and just people who normally won't be able to, pay for certain shows or go see a ballet. We make sure that people can have fair rights to be able to do these things and see these things. Not every family member has the money for a ballet show or for a certain play or to take part in certain artistic endeavors. And Culture for Cause is one group that puts that in their lap. So those are some of the things that we can do as individuals, um, to see change and to advocate for reform.
Coryse, can you explain the reporting process or what somebody might do to go about reporting something, especially if they see it happen to someone else?
Sure, sure. Definitely, I would go to an adult that you trust, in your community, or go straight to the police station, report it to the police, let them know, you think something is going on, and you follow up, make sure that they took you seriously. Um, some of the younger people that I've seen at the UN, when they felt like they weren't being heard on the local level, they started going to the UN. And you could go to the UN and be free of persecution or prosecution, and you can be able to talk to someone at the UN as well. Does
Does
anyone have
it,
any questions? Again, the website, and I know Rachel's going to put it up, it's youthforhumanrights.org. And if you would like to, as if you're an educator and you'd like to start teaching it, you can ask for them to send you a kit. The kit comes with about, I believe, 30 booklets. It comes with also activity sheets for you to be able to do activities with the kids. And it comes with this entire book here so that you can structure and do different things with children, or even if you decided to have it with a community-based group, you can do that as well.
I think that's a great idea, if you're involved with a religious organization or if you have a community that you're a part of on the weekends, that does something, you can sort of begin incorporating some of these ideas from the website and just share them with people and ask, did you know that there is this universal declaration of human rights that exists and that has been around since 1948, guaranteeing that
Yeah,
people have these rights and freedoms. And, I know that the civil rights groups are working very hard right now to try to get to all of these things happening, but it's hard when our, political leaders are committing some of these acts. What can we do? Sometimes it feels hopeless. So I think educating our community, we're doing that tonight, and all of you can go out and share this information and start letting people know that this exists, and no one has to accept this or feel like there's nothing they can do. If they have an advocate or a group, they you can report it to something like the ACLU also, or the chapter, local chapters of these nonprofits that are helping keep everybody's rights intact.